So in today's lesson, we're going to talk about locating and using intercepts. Now, we'll use this a lot in algebra. You'll use it in geometry. You'll use it in algebra 2, trigonometry, calculus. There's a lot of different places we're going to use x and y intercepts. But today we're going to talk about strictly what the standard form of a linear equation is. So when we talk about the standard form of a linear equation, we get ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are real numbers, but a and b cannot be 0. So this is our standard form of a linear equation. Now, if we talk about our x and y coordinates here, the x-coordinate of the point where the graph of an equation intersects the x-axis is called the x-intercept. So if I draw my graph here and draw a graph across a line here, the point where this line intersects or intercepts the x-axis is called our x-intercept. So right here, this would be our x-intercept. Now, if we talk about our y-intercept, the y-coordinate of the point where the graph of an equation intersects the y-axis is called the y-intercept. And so if we went through up here, and we want to talk about just our y-intercept would be here. This is where the line crosses or intersects the y-axis. So again, those are our two main focal points when we're talking about, in this lesson, talking about the standard form of an equation. We want to know what the x and y intercepts of things are. Now, for example, when we need to find the x and y intercepts for 3x plus 4y equals 24. And this is going to be real simple. We just need to find out what our x and y intercepts are. So the easiest thing for you guys to do is simply just plug in 0 for x or 0 for y, depending on what you're solving for. So for instance, if we're going to solve for x first, let's go ahead and plug in y for 0. So we'd get 3 times x plus 4 times 0 equals 24. And then since 4 times 0 is 0, it leaves us with just 3x equals 24. And then we would divide by 3 and get x equals 8. So our first point would be our x-intercept is 8. Now if we want to find our y-intercept, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to plug in 0 for x and get our y-intercept. So 3 times 0 is 0, which leaves us with 4y equals 24. We divide by 4 and we get y equals 6. So our x-intercept would be 8 in this case, and our y-intercept would be 6. So let's take a look at example 2 here. It says graph 5x minus 6y equals 30 using the x and y intercepts. So again, we're going to put in our x and our y t-chart here, and we're just going to go ahead and plug in 0 for y and 0 for x in two different spots here. So let's go ahead and plug in our y for 0 first, and we get 5x equals 30, and we divide by 5, and we get x equals 6. So that's our first point. Now let's plug in 0 for x and get our y-intercept. So 5 times 0 is 0, so it leaves us with a negative 6y equals 30. We divide by negative 6, y equals negative 5. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and plug in these numbers. So we have x equals 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, way over here. And we have 0 for x and y for negative 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right here. So then when we talk about graphing our line here, we just put our line through both those points. And this would be the graph of 5x minus 6y equals 30. Now later on when we start talking about the equation of a line, we can actually graph this a little quicker than what we just did. But this just gives you another method. If you see this method down the road and this works easier for you than solving with the equation of a line, then do whatever works best for you. So for example 3, we need to write y equals negative 2/3 x plus 5 into standard form. So if you remember, our standard form is ax plus by equals c. So basically what we need is we need our x's and our y's on one side together and our constant c on the other. So for this equation, the best thing to do would just be to add 2/3 x to both sides, and it would give us 2/3 x plus y equals 5. So now this is in standard form. Now what we need to do is solve for our x and y intercept and then graph it. So let's go ahead and we'll put x and y over here. So let's start off with, let's put 0 in for x. So if we put 0 in for x, it leaves us with y equals 5. So that one was fairly simple. But let's go ahead and plug in now y for 0. And if we plug in y for 0, we know that it's going to just knock that out. So we're going to have 2/3 x equals 5. And then we're going to divide by 2/3, which means we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, 3/2. And it's going to leave us with x equals, and then 5 times 3 is 15. 15, and then this is a 1, so 1 times 2 would give us a 15/2. So that would be your x coordinate. Now, if we need to go ahead and graph that, what we could do now, let's just go ahead and plug this in. So let's change color here, and actually let's go to this color here. So we plug in x is 0, y is 5. So we'll go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll plug our first point. And then x is 15/2. So if you put 2 into 15, that's really 7.5. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 is roughly here. And then we're just going to draw a line through our 2 points there. And this would be the graph of y equals negative 2/3 x plus 5. So as you can see, there's a lot of things you have to know about this, but this is standard form. Once we get to talking about equation of a line, it gives you something else to look at, but this is just one way of graphing equations of a line.